Okay, here we have section 8.4, which deals with trigonometry. So main ideas: find trigonometric ratios using right triangles, and then solve problems using trig ratios. So vocab over there: trigonometry, trigonometric ratio, sine, cosine, and tangent. So the study of trigonometry involves triangle measurement. That's actually what trigonometry means. So trig for triangles, metry is measure of, so measure of triangles. So a ratio of the lengths of the sides of a right triangle is called a trig ratio, or trigonometric ratio. There are three most common of them, are sine, cosine, and tangent. There are actually three other ones, but we won't be dealing with them. So down here we've got there we go. So the sine, cosine, and tangent here. Now the thing to be careful of is when you're talking about, so for example, sine here is opposite over hypotenuse, but depending on which corner you're talking about, so this side is opposite A, and this side is opposite B, and there's the hypotenuse. So you have to pay attention to what angle you're talking about when you're finding the side opposite, or this side opposite. So cosine deals with the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So for angle A, this side is adjacent, there's the hypotenuse. For angle B, this side is adjacent, there's the hypotenuse. Now adjacent means next to, which is why this is adjacent to B. Now the hypotenuse is also adjacent to B, but it's the hypotenuse first and foremost. And then down here, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So from A, the opposite side over the adjacent side. For B, this becomes the opposite, and that becomes the adjacent. Alright, so example 1 here. Find sine R, cosine R, tangent R, sine S, cosine S, and tangent S. Express each ratio as a fraction and as a decimal. So, let's see here. So sine R equals, cosine R equals, tangent R equals, and then over here we'll do S's. Sine S, cosine S, and tangent S. Okay. So for sine R, so here's angle R, so sine is the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So from angle R, 4 is opposite, it's across the triangle, and the hypotenuse is 5. So 4 over 5, which as a decimal is 0.8. So for cosine R, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 3 is the adjacent, it's this leg next to R, 5 still the hypotenuse, 3/5, which is 0.6. Tangent R, tangent is opposite over adjacent, so 4 is still the opposite, 3 is the adjacent, so 4/3, that's 1.3, repeating. So for S, we're going to switch corners. So here's angle S, so sine S is opposite over hypotenuse, so 3/5, or 0.6. Cosine S, so here's S, so cosine is adjacent, 4 over hypotenuse, 5. So 0.8, and tangent S is the opposite, 3 over the adjacent, which is 4. Notice that the 5 doesn't show up because that is the hypotenuse, and you don't use hypotenuse in tangent. Okay, so example 2. Dakota is standing on the ground 97 yards from the base of a cliff using his theodolite. He knows the angle formed by the ground line of sight to the top of the cliff is 56 degrees. Find the height of the cliff to the nearest yard. So here's your angle. We're looking for that. We have that. So we need to figure out which of those three trig functions to use first, either sine, cosine, or tangent. And the way you pick is you look at the side that you know and the side you're trying to find, because you only have 2 of the 3 sides of the triangle. So I don't have the hypotenuse, so I cannot use sine or cosine. I have to use tangent. So what I'm going to have is the tangent of 56 is equal to the opposite side, which is x, over the adjacent side, which is 97. Now, tangent 56 is something your calculator can actually do. Your calculator has a button that says tangent on it. So you can enter tangent 56 on your calculator and get a number out. So, for example, tangent 56 is 1.48. So this side becomes 1.48 equals x over 97. So to get x by itself, I need to multiply both sides by 97. So 1.48 times 97. So it's the nearest yards. We're going to round to the whole number. So that would be 143.56 is equal to x. So nearest yard would be 144 after rounding. And that would be our solution. Okay. So actually, we just cheated and actually used this slide previous. Oh no, we didn't. Sorry. So when you solve equations like 3x equals negative 27, use the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So inverses are two operations that cancel each other out. So multiplication and division are inverses. Addition and subtraction are inverses. Like squared and square root are inverses. There are also inverses of the trig functions. They have little negative ones as the exponent. So sine and inverse sine are the opposites. Cosine and inverse cosine, tangent and inverse tangent. Now they're literally called the inverse tangent. So down here for number 3, find measure angle A in triangle ABC for A is equal to 1, 2. No, right triangle, sorry. A is 1, 2, B is at 6, 2, and C is at 5, 4. So I need to find the lengths of these sides first. So AB is actually the easiest one to find. So it goes from 1, 2 to 6, 2. So it's 5. But to find CB and CA, I actually have to use the distance formula. Oops, forgot to slide the thing. There we go. Okay, so it's 5. For CA, the distance is the square root of x minus x, so 5 minus 1, so 4 squared, plus y minus y, 4 minus 2 is 2 squared. So that's the square root, let's see, 4 squared is 16, so 16 plus 4 is root 20, so there's CA. Let's see here, where is it? Where is it going? CB, sorry. So CB is the square root, so x minus x, 6 minus 5 is 1, plus, and then we're going to have y minus y, 4 minus 2 is 2, so that's the square root of 5. So we can use actually any of the trig functions you want, because we now know all 3 sides. So that is, this side is root 5, and this side is root 20. So from angle A, let's do, we'll do sine. So from angle A, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so root 5 over 5. So I'm going to have the sine of A is equal to root 5 divided by 5. So I need to turn that into a decimal first. So the square root of 5 divided by 5 is about 0.447. So sine A equals 0.447. Now this is where that inverse stuff from the previous slide comes in. When this sine moves across to get it away from the A, it becomes the inverse sine. And that's also the key on your calculator. You actually find it by pressing the second or the shift key and then pressing the sine key, and that'll actually spit out the answer. So the inverse sine of 0.447 is about 26.6 degrees. Don't forget your degree sign. And that is the end of the section.